On behalf of Team CASA, I, Lieutenant General Gautam Murthy, founder of CASA, welcome you all to this all-important CASA webinar, our 36th so far, on the topic Pakistan at Crossroads, Reading the Tea Leaves. Ever since independence from colonial rule and the partition of the subcontinent, India has its fortune inextricably linked to that of Pakistan. Things, however, began changing about 2 decades ago, the watershed moment being the Kargil War. Today, the two countries are no longer joined at the hip, as it were. While India has surged ahead, Pakistan is mired in humongous problems, most of which are of its own making. Over 35% of its people live below the poverty line. It is ranked 99 out of 121 nations in the Global Hunger Index, despite being an agrarian economy with exceptionally fertile land. There is a major power crisis on. The internal situation and the low-intensity war that is going on in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan has Pakistan teetering on the edge. The political soap opera has yet to run its full course. There is no doubt that Pakistan is at crossroads. The title selected for this webinar over 2 weeks ago was prescient indeed, as it is none other than the Pakistan Prime Minister, Mr. Shahbaz Sharif, who just yesterday said that Pakistan is at the crossroads with the Pakistan rupee in free fall. Pakistan is running out of options, and it is not on the economic front alone. Many Pakistani commentators and well-wishers of Pakistan, including, if I may say, some from India, are calling for a serious course correction. Where does it go from here? And how does the leadership of Pakistan veer the state away from what it seems to be a plunge into the abyss of hopelessness? To read the tea leaves, as it were, we have with us two very eminent and well-respected strategic analysts, one from Pakistan and one from India. From Pakistan, we have Dr. Qamar Cheema, who's been teaching at the Department of International Relations in the National University of Modern Languages in Islamabad since August 2010. He's been a visiting faculty member of the School of Politics and International Relations at the Quaid-e-Azam University, Islamabad, International Islamic University, National University of Science and Technology, and the Shahid Zulfikar Ali Bhutto Institute of Science and Technology, also at Islamabad. Dr. Cheema regularly appears on national and international media for discussing issues on national and international politics and contributes opinion articles in different newspapers. He is a familiar face in India as he regularly appears on some of India's news channels. His area of interest is Islamic parties of Pakistan, Indo-Pacific region, and South Asian politics. On behalf of CASA, we welcome Dr. Cheema to this webinar and look forward to hearing his views on where and in which direction Pakistan is headed. Welcome, Dr. Cheema.
Thank you very much.
Our other speaker this evening is none other than Dr. Tara Kartha. Dr. Kartha is a distinguished fellow at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies. She had earlier spent 17 years at the National Security Council Secretariat. Before that, she was with the Institute of Defense Studies and Analysis for 8 years, where she authored a book, Tools of Terror, Light Weapons and India Security. She was a former senior fellow at the United States Institute of Peace and a distinguished fellow at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies. She's been a speaker at various institutions and is a regular columnist for the Quint. We welcome you, Dr. Kartha, and we look forward to your take on the situation in Pakistan and how do you see the nation as it grapples with so many issues, especially its Taliban card in Afghanistan, which has not really paid off. A moderator for this webinar is Lieutenant General Satish Dua, PVSM, UISM, SMVSM, who retired as a Chief of Integrated Defense Staff. A counter-terrorism specialist, General Dua was in the Corps Commander of Kashmir during the tumultuous period of 2015-2016, marked by the surgical strikes at the terror camps across the Edo Sea. The general has had many prestigious command staff and instructional appointments during his distinguished career, including that of the Indian Defense Attaché in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. He co-chaired the Indo-US Military Cooperation Group and steered the construction of our National War Memorial. General Dua writes and speaks on current and strategic affairs. He's a member of the Executive Council of the Global Counter-Terrorism Council, as well as Executive Council member of the USI. He has authored a book about soldiers' lives on the LOC titled India's Brave Hearts, which also has a Hindi translation, Bharat Ke Janbaz, a TEDx and a motivational speaker for the youth fora and corporate leadership talks. The general is a keen sportsman, fond of horse riding, and an adventure sports enthusiast to include skydiving, skiing, and parachute jumping, as well as motorbiking, mountain biking too. Welcome, Satish, and it's over to you for the conduct of this webinar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And once again, a warm welcome to esteemed two panelists. And thank you, Kama, for really accepting our invitation. It is really good to have you on this forum because it brings in a feel from the ground, as it were. Apart from we've been interacting, you and I, but it'll be good to hear your view and not only, making up our points of view about Pakistan. So General Murthy has actually introduced the subject, introduced everything. I'm not really going to stand between you and the audience for more. I just will take just brief 2 minutes to talk about or sort of summarize things that domestically, Pakistan today is at crossroads. You also wouldn't deny that because economically it's at a very weak spot. Yesterday, I think the deregularization of currency. So today, the rupee has taken a free fall to 262 rupees per dollar. Politically, it's an uneasy coalition. The coalition in power has gotten together to oust Imran Khan's party. Internal situation, there is violent strife, the TTP or Baluchistan issues. Let's not forget the Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan is for some reason dormant at the moment, but then that also has a potential, and we saw how violent it got earlier. Situation on the borders is something I just want to flag that on the western borders, the situation is very volatile to say the least, and we'll hear more from you, and Dr. Tarak Arta will also cover that issue well when we talk about the dynamics between Taliban in Afghanistan and the Taliban in Pakistan. Durand line, the Pashtun issue, the Durand line, they don't recognize the Durand line at all. Then there was this ugly ministerial level spat regarding hitting the TTP bases in Afghanistan, and then the minister from Afghanistan reminded Pakistan about the 71 defeat and things like that. So we need to understand that terrorist groups are controlled to a great extent. I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. On the eastern side, that is Kashmir issue. We are not touching Kashmir today, but I'm just trying to say the issue that Pakistan is grappling with. On Kashmir side, just suffice it to say in one sentence that over the last 3 years, things have changed. The influence that ISI could wield over the terrorist groups over here is no longer the same. Terrorist groups have been marginalized, and so situation is improving over here. With this in background, we need to read the tea leaves. The recent development of the Pakistan Prime Minister's peace offer to India. Then, of course, there was a little climb down next day about having learned his lessons or not, and the PMO issued a slightly different statement. But the peace offer, is it genuine? If it is genuine, are we going to go about it in the right earnest, and what is going to happen? Then, when the foreign minister, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, gave statements against India in the United Nations, yet day before yesterday, he was invited for the SCO meet in Goa in May this year. So let's crystal gaze as possibilities and options, and I request Kamar to take the lead, take the floor first on Pakistan, and then we'll request Tara to talk about the Afghan and the Pashtun issues, and thereafter we will have interaction between the two of you and then with the audience. So over to you, Kamar.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant General Satish, sir. Thank you, General Moti, sir. And it's great to be with Dr. Tara Kata. We have been on few panels before on television, but it's really great to be with her here. And thank you, Kasa, for giving me this opportunity to share my perspective. Well, there is a lot on the plate to talk. There is something, what I want is that you should understand fundamentally where the problem is. In Pakistan, technically speaking, there is a balance of power deadlock in Pakistan. That is where there is a problem. Army in Pakistan is basically de facto powerful. Otherwise, the judiciary and the political class or the politicians or the parliament, they are de jure powerful. In Pakistan, as you know the history, we have been neighbors. There has never been a successful military coup in Pakistan. There has never been a successful military coup in Pakistan. There has never been an anarchy. In Pakistani military, there has always been unity of command. There are no long-term dictatorships in Pakistan like in Spain, Egypt, or Argentina, where we have seen dictatorships like 20 years, 30 years. The last time there was a limited martial law, that was a 45 days by General Musharraf in 2007. And people have come up, people have showed resistance. And people have come out and they fought for democracy. Although, Pakistan is a weak state and it is a weak constitution. So normally, the societal power structure is more dominant in Pakistan as compared to the constitution. So that is where there is a problem as well. So when I'm saying that there is a balance of power deadlock, army in Pakistan is basically, if let me put it very clear, army in Pakistan is basically a state within state. There is a powerful intelligentsia. There is a powerful intelligence institutions as well. And nobody can make them accountable. So this is basically, that's basically a crisis. So the political class can't make the generals accountable. And then there is the issue of this real power and legal power. As I was talking, that the military has the real power, and be it the judiciary or be it the parliament, they have the legal power. So this battle between the legal and the real power is going on for a long period of time, and we are not, we are not in a position to decide who will get what. So, military in Pakistan have normally, whenever there is a military coup, they want a monopoly. So, but the military in Pakistan have moved from monopoly to military dominance. So that is two different things. So, for example, there is a democracy. You will see that there is independent judiciary. There are projects like that, but there is a military interference everywhere in the entire apparatus. We have seen a dominance even in India, where in India you will see that the ruling BJP party, they have a dominance over everything, but there is a democracy. They have a dominance over media, on judiciary, on the military. But here in Pakistan, the military has a complete dominance over the entire power structure. So these are basically, that is where the crisis is going on. So if you just see, you have seen that since last March or April, when there was a vote of no confidence against Imran Khan, in Pakistan, we never know what is vote of no confidence. I mean, the general public, because there has never been a successful vote of no confidence. So when there was a vote of no confidence against Imran Khan, he put it like this way, as if there is a foreign conspiracy and the Pakistani military is a part and parcel of that conspiracy. So the entire narrative is basically built that, look, there are foreign conspiracy hatched by the Americans and the Pakistani military, and these people who have come in power, they are basically, this is an imported government. So these are the words. So largely the general public, they never realized that there could be the change within the parliament. So when we see that there is a power deadlock in Pakistan, that's where there is a challenge, where the political class even doesn't recognize and accept what is the value of the constitution. They do not honor the constitution, and they believe that with the populist narrative, they can take away everything. And the military is still there, which is trying to be the dominant actor, which is trying to have the dominant role. So we are unable to resolve this mystery that who will have what, and this is because of the fledgling democracy. This is because of the revolving door democracy. We have seen dictatorships, but we have not seen good dictatorships, strong dictatorships, like as I mentioned in the other countries. Now this is, this is a crisis which from where we are going, and we are unable to find out that where to go from here. And right now we have a very thin majority in the government, which has, there is a Prime Minister Imran Khan, who is a populist, who is doing good politics in a way out of the parliament. He has made the entire system hostage. He believes that if he will not be in power, the system is corrupt, and we need people who can run the system, and they are clean. So that is where the problem is on the political front, or that is where there is a problem on what I believe that the political class and the military, they want to have a dominance over this entire power structure. But economy, what we call as a non-traditional security, the military has basically for some time, they have given a lot of value and importance to the economy. When Army Chief General Bajwa was in power back in 2016 somewhere, he realized that, and after that, and since Imran Khan came in power, everybody in Pakistan realized, oh look, it is Imran Khan, it is Bajwa's project. They are fine. They will work together. And the military was helping the government to have, there is a macroeconomic stability in the country. But unfortunately, the military became prey to Imran Khan because he wanted to use the military for his own purposes. So the military, the Imran Khan wanted General Bajwa and his men to support him, to lock every opposition leader in the country. And Imran and the military wanted that since the previous politicians have been corrupt, so we need a clean man who could be maybe the GHQ's face to represent the world. So, and both failed in what both wanted to achieve. So the military never realized that the Imran Khan will use them for their political purposes. They helped him for everything, but they helped him to the extent where they believed that is necessary, or that is fair, where the other politicians are corrupt, for instance. But this was very, delicate situation. But one thing which has, the problem which has emerged right now, and that is very delicate, as Jan Sahab was also mentioning, from the last 22 years almost, the public debt has increased over 1,500%. That is where the challenge is. Right now, if we, in last 20 years, what we have seen is that since Pakistan was involved in war against terrorism, engaged in war against terrorism, there have been foreign money which was coming. So we didn't see the crisis. Secondly, the population was not that much in big number. Right now, this is a country of maybe 24-25 crore. That's a very big number. And that cannot survive on a borrowed growth. That cannot survive on a borrowed money. So back in 2013, when there was, but there is one good thing which is going on, and that is that after every 5 years there is a transition of power in the country. Every 5 years. The National Assembly completes its tenure, and there comes the new Prime Minister. Although it's a hodgepodge system, although it's a very thin majority, but the crisis have reached at this point, as I mentioned, that the Pakistan's public debt has increased. General Musharraf left in 2007. The first elected government from 2007 to 12-13. When they left the power, the Pakistan's total debt was 14 trillion. Then the other government from 2013 to 2018 of Nawaz Sharif left. There was a total debt of 25 trillion. Then came the Imran Khan, who came to, get rid of us from all these debts. And then, unfortunately, the debt increased to somewhere around 44 trillion. But right now, Pakistan its debt and liabilities have reached to 60 trillion rupees. Now, at this very critical juncture, when the government has, let's say, for example, 10 trillion rupees budget in the next election, in the next fiscal year, 50% of the federal budget will go to the interest payments. That will be maybe around 4.8 trillion. And then government collects somewhere around 6.5 trillion or 6.7 trillion, maybe a 4 trillion of the entire budget. So 15 trillion will go to 1.5 trillion will go to the army. The 4.67 trillion will go to the debt servicing or interest payment, and then the government is all having nothing in hand. With all that, we are facing a serious crisis, the resurgence of the Taliban, the TTP, to whom the government was very, if you just look at the data from 2015 to 2020, there was a decline in the terrorist incidents, but the absence of obviously violence, that does not mean there was a peace in the country. So the militants, they were hiding in Afghanistan. The TTP, particularly the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, they were there. What Pakistan did was that Pakistan did some excellent work in terms of mainstreaming FATA, formerly administrated tribal areas. They mainstream into the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, but that's a tribal society. Pakistan just installed the barbed wire, the Pak-Afghan border, but because of the challenges, it's not that much there. Then when the American left in Afghanistan, the Taliban came in power, and they started operating in that way because they realized that there was much hatred in Afghanistan for Pakistan because Ashraf Ghani and Karzai and other people, they built a narrative in Afghanistan for all the miseries of Afghanistan. Pakistan is involved, and whenever the Afghan government couldn't use to deliver, they used to just blame Pakistan because and to the West and everyone else. So now the situation has reached that the Taliban, along with the TTP, fought against the Americans, and now when the Americans have left, the TTP is just left there. So I have been saying continuously, the way Pakistan used Taliban as a leverage in front of the Americans, the TTP are using continuously a leverage in front of Pakistan, but they don't accept it. But the TTP has a huge and sizable presence in Afghanistan. They keep coming and going. The guard was low in Pakistan. We never realized that this is coming. And then there were talks between the TTP and the ISI, which failed badly. But now the military is hitting them again. And there is strong capability. But obviously there are challenges because internally the political class normally doesn't buy military's narrative on countering terrorism. And at the end of the day, there is a shortage of funds and so much is going on related to that area. And then we have seen that Pakistan was fighting a war against terrorism, but Pakistan was being blamed, for instance, by India that, look, they are sponsoring terrorism and so and so. So obviously there was, something good Taliban, bad Taliban, and then being silent on what was going on in Indian occupied Kashmir and all this. So then there came structural compulsions like FATF, where Pakistan had to respond to the international community. Pakistan had to respond to the UN Security Council, as Pakistan was reluctant to take measures regarding what was going on in Indian occupied Kashmir. There is no active, this is what I know, and this is what there is a view that Pakistan doesn't support anything related to, as far as non-state actors are concerned, related to Indian occupied Kashmir. But yes, Pakistan supports what's going on there, any support that is diplomatic, political, and moral. But since Prime Minister Modi withdraw this 35A, 3370, things have changed. And let me tell you an interesting thing. In the previous government from 2018, which is going on, this incumbent, the parliament, when Imran Khan came in power, it was General Bajwa who really wanted peace with India. But he didn't get a window of peace, even from Imran Khan. Imran Khan emerged as a hawk. If you just go back in 2013, I was very happy, and many like me, people like me, that there is a probability that the India factor there is no India factor, particularly in the electoral process in country. But in 2018, again, the India factor was dominant, and Imran Khan targeted Nawaz Sharif for being friend of Modi because Prime Minister Modi came in Pakistan, so and so. So right now, it was the military which wanted to support dialogue, talks with India, but it was the political party like Imran Khan who had hawks within it, like people like Shah Mahmood Qureshi, people like Sheikh Rashid, people like Shiri Mazari, the human rights minister, they were hawk in the parliament, in the cabinet, and they didn't let the entire process to complete and to initiate a dialogue with India. And they brought in Kashmir, and then Imran Khan started saying, "I cannot, we cannot allow to have sacrifices because of the Kashmiris," and in return, Imran Khan thought that if I will speak with India or I will start a trade with India, my popularity is not much there, and I will lose the next 2023 elections. So right now, when the incumbent Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif has come up with an offer to India for talks, which Jalsa was mentioning, I think this offer to India is genuine. Because if you just look the PMLN and the People's Party, very mature political parties, institutionalized, they're very strong, and they have a habit of saying to engage with India. But what we have seen is from Indian side that India is taking a very tough line on Pakistan. Wherever India goes, it calls Pakistan countries that sponsors terrorism. So I think there is no somehow, and then obviously there is an absence of third party in our relations, because India's position has diplomatically, economically, politically has been very strong, and the global dependence on India by the major powers has so much increased, particularly because of the developments of in Indo-Pacific and the rise of China, that India's position has completely changed. So what Pakistan is saying to the Middle Eastern countries, that is genuine. Shahbaz Sharif and Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, they're very strong advocate of the peace. And I think there is a window of hope. And I'm sure things will move in the right direction. There's so much, there's a troubled relation between Pakistan and India. Things are very tricky, but largely people are occupied or busy in the internal political discourse, and they're talking about the balance of power deadlock in Pakistan. If there is the invitation has come for the SCO, I think Bilawal Bhutto Zardari will go, and we will move from here. And as far as the internal dynamics are concerned, things will be better once there are elections, which are going to be the general elections, going to be in October, November this year. And secondly, as far as the financial compulsions are concerned, more taxes are to be collected. There is a strong potential in the system, in the economy. The government is, for instance, if collecting 6.5 or 6.6 trillion, they can go to like 8 trillion or 9 trillion if they properly, if they properly collect taxes and everybody is taxed properly. And I think that we have reached to the moment where we are losing hope that we cannot have a borrowed growth, we cannot live on loans, but still the politicians don't speak with each other. Imran Khan doesn't like to talk to anyone in the parliament. So there is a political crisis, but largely the political parties at this moment and the military, they are on a one page that we need to have an internal consensus, political stability, and for that matter, the Imran Khan is the only irritant which the entire apparatus feels. That's what I wanted to make.
Thank you, Kamar. Thank you, Dr. Kamachima. It was very nice to hear your views. We all keep discussing Pakistan, all right, but it is very nice to get some different. For example, I caught a thread in you. You said there has never been military anarchy, only military dominance. So I hear you. I see the kind of distinction you make. And then, of course, we'll get into discussion later after Tara has also spoken. But half in lighter vein, let me tell you, when you said that Imran Khan thought that I'm not very popular in India, I must tell you, he's very popular in India. Of course, that may be more as a cricket sports star. And we'll of course have to wait and see how that happens. But before I hand over to Tara, I just want to say that it was very good, heartening to hear from you that, I mean, your view, of course, it is your view, not the establishment view, that if Bilawal Bhutto Zardari has been invited for the SCO conference at Goa, a meeting, a foreign ministers meeting at Goa, he will come. Because I think both countries have taken hardened their stance. We'll discuss some of that. I'm not going to jump the gun now. We'll discuss that after the second panelist has spoken. But instead of always taking hardened stance, we must also grab at some opportunities that come our way. So more of that in the Q&A session. For now, over to you, Tara. The floor is all yours.
Thank you. Nice to be on the panel with you, Dr. Chima. Welcome, and we're so happy to see you. So my remit was, I'm looking at this whole reading the tea leaves, right? So we're going to look into the future as to how things are working out in between. My remit is Pakistan, Afghanistan. How does that work? So when we analyze, and people like me who really don't have the kind of depth which Dr. Chima has, when we analyze, we look at what? We look at the Tehreek-e-Taliban attacks. That's a prominent line of analysis. Second, we look at the Durand line, and the tensions there is another line of analysis. And then we look at the official, so-called demi-official links between the Taliban and the Pakistan, the government. You know, how does it work? How does bilateral relations? But not so much. These two are the prominent lines on which we base our assessment of Pakistan's role in Afghanistan and what the future is likely to be. TTP attacks, I think you've already said, that it has been a really bad year. In the last year, especially December, was extremely bad. You had a lot of, attacks in just that last month in December. So, and I think there was one in Islamabad recently where I'm told two ISI officers were also targeted. So that hasn't been very good. So I hope my audio is okay.
Yes, yes, it is fine.
Okay, so the second is most of these, this is what we know, and what we know and what is real, we're trying to separate these two. Second is that most of the attacks have been in the north, Khost, Kunar, Paktia, that side of thing, which is really unsurprising because most of the TTP are Pakistanis. I mean, they are people who were pushed out by a military operation and then went across and then fought very bravely along with the Taliban for years, which Pakistan never objected to. For years, they went along with the Taliban. And you had, in fact, Sirajuddin Haqqani praising the TTP as saying that these people were extremely brave and, valiant. Third thing we know is that the negotiations, what happened? How did they try to deal with this? How did Pakistan try to deal with it? One is through negotiations with the TTP, where the TTP had laid down certain conditions, which included that the FATA merger must be reversed, which again is unsurprising. They refused to be disarmed, given the history of the negotiations in the past, which you've had, where a lot of these guys got massacred. So that's also unsurprising. And removal of army from the area. That's what they're asking. So that is one thread of negotiations. Second is the ulema who have been sent to speak to the Taliban. You have ulema sent to speak to the TTP. And apparently that went off very well. So that was, I think I forget his name, who has Mufti Taqi Usmani, who was heading this negotiation team. And he is the one who recently went on to say that it is haram to attack the Pakistan army. So he is somebody who has a lot of respect within Afghanistan also and in Pakistan, who has a certain standing. He's got the ulema and mashaykh along with him. And he's trying to get this negotiation going. But so far, that hasn't worked very well. A third line of trying to deal with the Tehreek-e-Taliban has been the use of airstrikes, drones, and so on and so forth. And in April, I think April last year was one of the largest attacks across by Pakistan, did its own surgical strikes into Afghanistan. And they also have been using drones, which the Kabul is pretty unhappy about, saying that this is also the US, assistance which is going. The US are using drone attacks from Pakistan into Afghanistan. And if those of us who've read the F-16 sustainment program, which came up in the US Congress, that notification says clearly that this is to support the national security, blah, 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 of the US, and it is for ongoing counterterrorism operations. So clearly it seems to me that there is a US role also in its own interests. I mean, not perhaps whether not in Pakistan interest, we don't know. But the point is, if you recall, Dr. Chima, in 2017, the US virtually wiped out a whole tier of TTP leadership. They targeted them heavily and brought peace back to Pakistan for a couple of years. That is not happening now. That is all. We don't know why. Perhaps the intelligence on the ground is not there. A fourth way of trying to control the Tehrik-e-Taliban has been the border. The whole border has been the 3-tier border fencing, which is going on. There are, I'm told, some 285 routes from Afghanistan into Pakistan. Some of them, little tracks and so on. Very difficult border to control at any time. But the Pakistan government, I think, has spent a lot of money. They've used technology. They're trying to control this. The weakness in that, I think, is that I'm told at various, I mean, this is from your own sources, that while the Afghans are not being let in, now they're let in only on very strict grounds, the Taliban are still going up and down. So that's something which we need to keep in mind, regardless of whatever the relations may be in terms of the public discourse. The Taliban are still moving between the two countries. Third is, I think, on the lighter side is that the Frontier Corps, which is guarding the border, is not exactly known for being non-corrupt. They make their own money. So there's a lot of other stuff also coming in through that border. So that's, however, at the side. So these are the ways that TTP is being handled by the Pakistan. Is it a huge national threat? I don't know. I leave it to you to tell me if it is a national threat. So far, it has been restricted more or less to one area. It is a rising problem, but it's not at a level where the state it is threatening the collapse of the state. It's nowhere near that level. So let's keep it realistically at that. The second line of inquiry which we can look at is the Durand Line problem. Now, I think it was rather naive of Islamabad to expect that the Taliban would recognize the Durand Line. No government has ever recognized it, and this has been happening. The tensions on the border, I think, since 2017 or something, when you started this whole border fencing. Since then, clashes have been taking place, but it was not reported much. This time, December 2021, December 2022 was when it was really bad. And that was in Nangarhar area. Nangarhar, as you know, has always been. I think it's 90% Pashtun, Mohmand tribes. These are all cross-border tribes. They will never agree to a border problem. That was in Nangarhar. It was in Spinboldak, which was surprising because that's a major trading route. Now, while all this was taking place, while the shouting and the yelling was going on the border, and artillery strikes, Chaman, I think, also took a lot of artillery, trade was going on at the other end. So it was not as if the relations were soured to such an extent. In fact, if we look at the figures, we have, I think, Pakistan is the largest trading partner for Afghanistan. The latest report from the UN says that it is, I think, 68% of trade is with Pakistan. So that continues. And I think during the recent floods, the Pakistan was able to import vegetables, very badly required vegetables and foodstuffs from Afghanistan to sustain itself. Now, if we look at the issues on the border, what happened? I mean, now let's look at what is the relationship between the Kabul and Islamabad. What is the relationship if we look it through the lens of the border clashes? What happened was that the border affairs minister Nurullah Nuri, I think, didn't take very well to the strikes by Islamabad. There was the defense minister Mullah Yaqub also came and dropped to say that we're not going to take this kind of nonsense. We do not recognize the Durand Line, so on and so forth. So that is one lot who have stood against this. I think the Pakistan officials went and met them, but that has so far on the Durand line per se, it's got nowhere. But the trouble is, what we are seeing is that if you disaggregate decision making in Afghanistan, is that much of what Kabul is doing. When we say Kabul, we're talking of the, by and large, the Doha gang, by and large, not entirely, also the Haqqanis. You see most of the decisions being scuttled by the Kandahar lot, and which includes the Haibatullah and the others, as well as I think the Karidin Muhammad Hanif, people, the Afghan Justice Minister, the Afghan Minister for Education, the Afghan Minister for Economy. These are all the loyalists of the traditional Kandahar lobby. And what you notice, if you look at their bios, is that each of them have studied in Pakistan. They spent years in Pakistan. So that lot is the one, to my estimation, is ISI stranglehold, is the Pakistan's stranglehold on decision-making lies in Kandahar, not so much in Kabul. And the question is whether they can sustain this tension between these three, actually, because there's the Haqqanis who are very curiously neither sometimes here and sometimes there. We're not sure exactly where they are. I was told that Sirajuddin Haqqani has, after all, offered mediation, tried mediation twice, 2017, and this time again they tried to mediate with the TTP on behalf of Pakistan, which was as much as they could do. I mean, that's what they tried. Then as I said, the air attacks took place on April 16th. And thereafter, it's interesting that Kabul immediately caught hold of a bunch of people who had attacked the Pakistan embassy and got them killed. So what you see is Kabul is trying to cooperate with Pakistan. So I don't see that either of these issues, either the Tehrik-e-Taliban or the border issues, is so serious as to say that, the general perception is, Pakistan has lost Afghanistan. It hasn't. There is no other country which is operating in Afghanistan so freely as Pakistan. Recently, you had the Russian special envoy in Pakistan. Anyone who wants to talk to the Taliban still goes to Pakistan. So do the Chinese. So Pakistan is still a very, very strong player in Afghanistan. It may not have the money. It is give a lot of humanitarian aid, whatever it could. It gave that aid. It is also trying to arrange a freeing of, loans. It is working diplomatically. The diplomatic machine is working very hard to support Taliban in whatever it could, whatever way it can. So my contention is that the reality is that we, also they are planning. I just read that the main border points, I think Ghulam Khan, that area, they are planning to make it into a major that TIR zone, for trans-Afghanistan, Afghanistan, Central Asia, the road network. So that the TIR status has been given to that border point as well, like they have given to SUS for the Chinese side. So the plans are there to exploit, which is good. I mean, you're exploiting the road network, trying to take trade on to Central Asia and so on. So when we say, I think we should be, while Pakistan is in very bad shape in terms of it, I mean, I wish you had said a little more about that. In terms of Afghanistan, I don't think things are as bad as it is made out. It has certainly not lost Afghanistan. I mean, I think I'll stop there. That was just, I mean, I'm open to your view on this. I think they've got what they call, I mean, I don't like to use the word strategic depth because it gives the totally wrong, implication. The kind of the word, what they meant by strategic depth years ago and what they mean now, I think are two different things. But they've got what they wanted by and large. TTP is going to be difficult to handle as long as, if you remember Hamid Karzai, he recently said, he says, try and bring them into your society, try and deal with them. Okay, I'll stop there. I think my time is up.
Thank you. Thank you, Tara. That was very well done indeed. In fact, you very nicely made a distinction between what is happening astride the Durand line, what is happening between the terrorist violence and the support to TTP, the TTP dynamics and TTP Taliban dynamics. And when I say that, you're making a distinction between all this and the difference between the Kabul Islamabad dynamics. And that's very different. That also was very well brought out. To say that it is not they've not, it's not as if they've lost Pakistan, they've lost Afghanistan, and we all tend to generally speak of that in the same breath. You, when you say that Russian envoy actually came to Pakistan to talk to Kabul, or anyone who wishes to talk. So there, Pakistan is still a very relevant player as when it comes to dealing with Kabul, or with to that extent. Before I would like Kamar to respond to some of the things. I'm sure you want to respond to some of the things. Your body language shows it, and why not? You should be
No,
responding.
anything. I'm
Yes,
okay.
yes.
If anyone has a question, I would love
No,
to
no,
answer
we'll do
it
that.
as
We'll
well.
do that as well. I just, like I told you earlier, we'll have you respond to whatever you want to respond to. But before I hand over to you, I want to say one thing that Tara said is that, there is firing and violence, firing on the borders, and then there is violence between the on the off-park borders, apart from the road. But the trade goes on. Actually, that brings to my mind the same thing is with India-China. What we
Yeah.
have, our problem in Ladakh or Arunachal, yet over the last 2.5, 3 years, our trade has actually gone up by 20 or 25%. So I think it's a very similar dynamics that we are seeing at play. It also shows that the world is prepared for a little more matured handling of such things, which happens everywhere. After all, Russia and Ukraine also gave a time window for the grains to go out. Over to you,
Well,
Kamal.
well, I think as far as what you're talking is, I think in the case of China, India, and in case of Pakistan, Afghanistan, things are different. The China, Pakistan and Afghanistan, the challenge is that a lot of population is Pashtun on both sides. That is where the dominantly we have a challenge. Either this is in Balochistan or this is in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. One thing. So these are tribes, they are families, they have been living, and we have given them space for moving. And then one more thing, Afghanistan is a landlocked country. So whatever comes in Afghanistan, that comes via Pakistan. So right now, and then you might have seen that there is a lot of pressure on Pakistani rupee, and the dollar was the dollar was it was being in the black market, was going into Afghanistan. There are reports around somewhere $1 million a daily were going in Afghanistan, because it was like they didn't have any banks operating globally. They had nothing. So we have, normally in Pakistan, what we say is that if the dollars are coming from Peshawar to Karachi, things are good. If the dollars are going from Karachi to Peshawar, this is not good, because it's going in Afghanistan, and it will have a pressure on all of. So I think, and in case of India and China, I think the trade of the volume of $125 billion, and there's so much more there. So it's a different next level. But I think this is all local level trade, or a very small number. But obviously, there's a lot of pressure that the military and the government had to give a kind of space, a breathing space, even to the locals, to the tribal people, for letting all that happen. And then, there's a large number of section of Afghan people who come into Pakistan for medical purposes on daily basis as well. So there's so much into that. That's a completely different thing. But the trade is very small, and largely we do it for having a soft power in Afghanistan, since we didn't close the border. Otherwise, there will be, there's a lot of the dimensions which will further unfold. Yes.
All right. Thank you. I have a couple of questions in the chat box, but before that, I want to ask you a question to cover to you itself. To you, you mentioned about the government having done a good job as far as mainstreaming of FATA is concerned,
Yeah.
right? Um, please help me to understand this. Isn't that one of the problems, that they wanted to remain more autonomous and rather than the mainstreaming that you spoken about.
Well, I think
Sorry, General Dua, can I also add a question?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Dr. Chima, in terms of public, the debt, which you said, because that is it is most serious issue that we are seeing right now. I was trying to do the math, and I can't see any way that Pakistan can pay back its pending loans. I mean, it is going from loan to loan. And in which case, I mean, don't you think that, I mean, this is a very loaded question. If you don't want to answer, it's okay.
no problem.
If it goes into debt, into what do you call it, into a sovereign debt default, that might be better for Pakistan in the long run, because it will push the dollar into a realistic framework. It will push reforms which Pakistan badly needs, which a political player who's waiting for elections can't possibly do unless somebody pushes it down their throat. Just a thought.
Yeah, you're right. As Jalsa was talking, I think on this mainstreaming, I think those people, they needed this mainstreaming. They didn't want an autonomy, because mainstreaming gave them an access to the National Assembly. The mainstreaming gave them an access to the provincial assemblies in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So they were not having a status that, for example, the people of GB, Gilgit-Baltistan, they don't have the representation in the National Assembly. So that was, the colonial era laws, and one, for example, deputy commissioner will go and they will deal, and then they will have the local Malik, or a person who does all what he wants to do. So that was like, this was not something which should have been done. So it was behind all that, it was the military which pushed. The political class in Pakistan, somehow they have not agreed to talk to each other. This is one of the problem in Pakistan, and whenever such kind of political consensus has been there is always the military behind all that. I think the biggest political consensus in Pakistan's history has been either, the Constitution of 1973, or after that, we had this 18th Amendment in 2010, where the powers were devolved from the federal structure to the provincial structure. And that was done by the People's Party and the other political parties. At that time, Imran Khan was not having power. Otherwise, it was not possible, because it doesn't like to talk to anyone and trust anyone, and so on. So they want more power in terms of representation at the national level, but right now they are not into what they were talking, they're not getting what they want, because of the money is not being divulged, the fiscal and administrative power, the structure, the process of empowering them is very slow, because of the financial challenges and because of elections and political reasons. What Dr. Tara was mentioning, I think there are many people who are talking on this. Yes. But obviously the government doesn't even thinking of this, which and particularly the military as well. Remember, as I mentioned, the military is involved in this non-traditional security apparatus, where they consider the economy as a non-traditional security, where, for example, they're supporting the China-Pakistan economic corridor. We raised 2 security divisions to support the Chinese there, although we had to face this Baloch militancy and all that. But and they believe that if we and for example, it is every army chief in Pakistan since last 6, 7, 8 years who is managing for the funds. For example, if you remember, the former army chief spoke to the Wendy Sherman for the IMF to push for the money, and similarly, the new army chief also went to Saudi Arabia and to the UAE for the funds, and they very graciously always support Pakistan. But obviously, things are changing very fastly, but we don't have a political consensus. The military, I have not seen military behaving in a way like right now. If you see that what Imran Khan has not done to the military, even India couldn't damage the military the way Imran Khan has damaged. Normally, we are rivals, adversary. We have those plans, and that goes. But we normally, the way Imran Khan has damaged the military in Pakistan, nobody could do it. He just made them complicit to a foreign conspiracy, and they are in locally people who are involved in all that. That was very difficult, and the people in the military, the families bought this idea that yes, and then the largely public bought this idea. So it seems that the only way to all these messes, to sit on a table, to find out a way. I was just, as you were talking, Dr. Tara, normally in good democracies where there is a public oversight or the parliamentary oversight, there is always a concept of debt ceiling, where you go to the parliament, you give your position to the parliament that why we need this money, and then the parliament asks you, okay, you can have this. But in Pakistan, it's not the case. It is the cabinet and the prime minister at late night decide, oh, we need money, okay, get it, call to the bank, commercial bank, or to this, write a letter and get a loan. Obviously this is a sovereign country, everybody want to give it a loan, and they will give it because they know this is a state, they have to pay at the end of the way, otherwise they will default. So the loan is secure. So the one major damage has been to Pakistan is that all the money is going to, from the commercial banks or the private banks, is going to the government and not to the Pakistani businessmen, so that they could go for businesses and all that. So these are things, but I think going for a default is not because there's so many complications into the system. The money will be devalued. We have issues with India. There could be a national morale which could be get down, psychological issues as well. We got default. I think the government, which will believes, is that if we can manage some funds, there is an informal economy which normally is not discussed. That's very big in the country, very, very big in the country. Informal economy, not documented, not digitized, not taxed. So normally we ignore that, but that's what is basically running the country. Yes.
Thank you, Kamal. Now we have some questions from the audience, and let me start with that. Perhaps you can also look into your chat box, but the first one is from by an anonymous attendee saying, Dr. Chima, who owns Pakistan debt? Though you referred to it, but would you like to answer that specifically?
I couldn't understand what he wants to say. Basically, this is anonymous.
Yeah, I think it is a state that owns the Pakistan debt anyway.
Obviously, the state is there, but should have been more elaborated rather.
Yes.
So that
Yes. All right. If he wants to, he will perhaps elaborate and put the question in the chat while we will take the other questions. Next question is by General Shankar. General Shankar has asked, whatever Kamachima has spoken is entirely opposite of what Pervez Hoodboy and Faisal Siddiqui have written in their op-eds in Dawn. His comments.
Well, I didn't read the op-eds, but I think I read Pervez Hoodboy this morning. Since I'm in US, when I was late night, I read him. But he was right in talking on a lead and all this. On this article today is on a lead. Elite is there. Obviously, you just can't ignore them. But I'm unable to understand that how we have to, they are controlling everything. If they are in the military, they are political domain, they are the business, they are there. But I think the general public, at the end of the day, they have realized that they have to get the job done themselves. So they're busy in all that. So in my understanding, we come from the countries where we just don't trust or buy whatever the government says all the time. So we keep preparing for ourselves. So I think this is what the general public is doing. The elite is there, very 1% republic, what we call. So the 1% republic is like they're running us. But obviously, these are very delicate times here. But let's see whether we'll find any solution or how we move from here. So there is an anonymous attendee who says, we want to know from whom has Pakistan taken debt, how much from World Bank, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and all that. I think I don't have the exact statistics, but I can tell you, maybe in a short while, that from whom we have got much of the loans. I made a slide on that. So largely on this, what we call on these debts, The bigger money we have to pay is to, for example, China. Yes, maybe that is more than, I think, 14,000 million. And then there comes Japan, somewhere around 5,000 million US dollars. Then France, 1,700 million. Then Germany, 1,300, US 1,100, and then Saudi Arabia, and then it goes down. That comes from, the top 10 countries to whom we owe the debt. But when it comes to, for instance, the institutions of the financial institutions, I think the International Development Association is where we had to owe them something more than 16,000 million US dollars. And then it's Asian Development Bank, $13,000 million. And then it's commercial banks are there, more than 10,000 US million dollars. And then International Monetary Fund, IMF, more than $7,000 million. And then the International Bank of Reconstruction and Development is there. So these are the countries and the financial institutions to whom we owe the money this way. Yes.
Right.
I have a question, please.
Yeah, that's General Murthy.
Yes, Dr. Kamar Chima, you made a very interesting statement that Imran Khan has damaged the military more than anyone else or any organization, and you mentioned India too in that. Now, this obviously you are referring to what started as a standoff with him, siding with General Faiz Hamid and General Bajwa as chief for taking a different stand. And that standoff finally got resolved, and Faiz Hamid did get posted out to Peshawar, and then subsequently, again, he went to FOCO, I think. But now that both have retired, but has this sort of gone down well with the rank and file and with everybody else in the Pakistan Army, or do you still believe that there are some schisms there?
Well, simply there is a one thing, Jansa, which is important. The military in Pakistan, they never simply the question is like this. They want, let me put it like this way. The military, in fact, in Pakistan, they never want that the politicians should choose their, the chief. But obviously they choose the chief, the prime minister at many places. Yes. Or they manage things the way it could be. Like, for example, if Imran Khan was to come, they don't give this luxury to the politicians. If Imran Khan were to come, okay, he's here because the environment was created for him. But if the Imran Khan says that I want to choose my own chief, he wants to appoint his own DJSI, they won't do it. They never let any politician to meddle into their internal things. This is the bottom line. The Bajwa wanted to even resign at a height of all these tensions, but he wouldn't bow down because, a weak soldier who couldn't even, maybe punch back the prime minister for meddling into the internal affairs of the military. He will never be forgiven in the military. If you remember the Jahangir Karamat, the former army chief who said yes to Nawaz Sharif on step down, that was not taken good, and the military doesn't remember him in a good words. He should have stood up. So the military has its own strategic culture. The politicians always, we have this dictum in Pakistan that every prime minister who comes, they want to make army chief Punjab police. So they have failed to do this. You can't make the army the Punjab police. It's not the police. It's the army. So in the internal, and this is what the Nawaz Sharif wanted to do back in 2014-13. He was punished for that. He wanted to change there's so many things I shouldn't mention maybe. So I think the political class have failed to realize the political class, they need to come up as a unit through good governance, through structural reforms, through delivery to change the balance of power. They want to change the balance of power. Just being in a constitutional position is not sufficient in our structure. As we mentioned that, this issue of real power and the constitutional power, this struggle, the tussle is going on. So that's why the Bajwa didn't let Imran Khan to manage, and they thought, okay, you may be the popular leader, you may be the good leader, you may be the clean leader, But you are but you are the one who's trying to meddle in us. Okay, need to go home now.
But if I may add, in all democracies, the executive is and the civilian, the political oversight is the political establishment is superior to the military. There is no doubt about it. The military has to listen. MacArthur, at the height of his success, was sacked by by President Eisenhower. Similarly, in India, we had a naval chief who was overnight dismissed from service. It happens in a democracy, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
I have worn the uniform for 39 years, but I may not have liked it personally. But in a democracy, we have to bow to the political leaders.
General, you are right. General, you are right on
by
that.
the people of the country.
I absolutely agree. When it comes to the constitution, when it comes to the legality, when it comes to even in the US, it was the same. I think it was maybe Obama who asked the generals to step down while he was in Afghanistan.
Yes.
I think General Stanley McChrystal.
Yeah.
So this is the democracy. So I think, as I mentioned, it is a question of, as I talk about this power deadlock in this country, then it is still there. And the military somehow basically, they have given a lot of role to the politicians. So what Imran Khan was doing against the military, what is that? The Imran Khan built the entire narrative against the military, and the military was silent. They let him do whatever he wanted to do. So I think the military has moved on so many things. The political class is just standing at the same time where they are. So if General Bajwa, while sitting as a sitting army chief, the ISI was listening to what Imran Khan was doing for the good 6 months in the country, they let him do. They even didn't put him once behind the bars. They didn't do anything. So I think the military has moved on. The Bajwa, when as he retired as an army chief, he became the most unpopular person. He was the person who basically supported Imran Khan everywhere, but somehow Imran Khan is a thankless person. He didn't even honor the man to whom basically supported him. So I think you are right, but I think this is a power deadlock, and it will take time. This is a matter of time. It's not overnight. Every politician, every prime minister in the country who has come in power, they have failed to realize that no political party, even if they come with the 2/3 majority, they can change this balance of power. This is a gradual, slow, institutional process that needs to come with years of governance, with years of political culture, democratic culture, which the political class need to show as well, not just to expect the military to step back. So this is my humble submission. I may be wrong on so many things, but
yes, no, you're right. And the military has also said very clearly that they were not going to step into politics. General Bajwa said it on his farewell speech and his letter, and General Munir has also sort of seconded that. Yes,
yeah,
you're right. It will come. Satish, over to you, please.
Right. Thank you, sir. The next question for you, Kamar, is from Kaushik Shekhar. So what is the status of food security?
Yeah, that's an important question when it comes to the food security. There are a few things. We have become a net importer of food. For instance, when it comes to wheat. The one major thing which normally people don't realize and they don't talk is the urbanization, private housing societies, real estate emerging as a new savior of the masses. For example, all the basket case, I come from a place where like Gujranwala, Sialkot, Lahore, all these area that is known as where the best basmati rice grows, or the wheat crop we call it a bumper crop is there. All these places where they are, the housing societies are being developed on the farms. So, for example, the DHAs or the private housing society. So people like us, we are trying to buy the food maybe from 100 kilometer or 70 kilometer, maybe we'll be buying the food in next 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. One thing. The second, the food is sufficient, but it is getting little tough to buy. There's never a food crisis in the country. You find the rice or the wheat there, but yes, it is little expensive because the corruption, the bureaucracy doesn't manage thing. Once they believe that we have sufficient gandam, they export it, and they believe, oh, we don't have gandam, let's import it. So this is all mismanagement. Otherwise, it's fine so far, what I believe. Yeah.
All right, thank you. The next question is by Srinivas Kambapati. How will Pakistan politicians handle the hatred towards India? Hatred that people of Pakistan have towards India. Now, before I let you answer that, I am going to make an observation here. And the observation here, Amar, is that, and I'm sure no one, there can't be any two views on this, that just like Tara made a distinction between the Durand line thing and the issue of between Taliban's, but issue and the distinction between them and the dynamics between Kabul and Islamabad. Similarly, I think in India and Pakistan, this question pertains to hatred that people of Pakistan have towards India. That's what he says. I'll let you answer that. People to people, while we have issues, but people to people contacts, there are many fora in which there are people to people contact between India and Pakistan. Somehow they are very smooth. I mean, I'm myself part of a couple of track channels where or if you go abroad and you meet people, it's very easy to get along. We can sit and argue over a drink, our positions, but it's very easy to get along. I suppose basically because we are from the same stock, and we find it very easy to converse with each other, converse in the grammatical sense, and also converse in the deeper sense. Over to you, Kamal.
Well, I think I will answer this question in a way that the power elite on both sides, India and Pakistan, they have pumped hatred so much into the society. Now this is on auto control. This is going on. If you just look at it in India, you won't find a less hatred for Pakistan. So maybe a politician, Prime Minister Modi, is silent, but there is a system which is working automatically and that he's creating. So same is a case where the political politician in Pakistan may not be giving a statement against India generally, but the entire narrative, starting from the books, starting from how we brought up, and starting from this Hindu, Muslim and all that. And in India, there is a Muslim Hindu thing. For example, just this, even this documentary issue we have seen in India. So I think this hatred is mutual. This is from both sides. I won't say this is a one-sided hatred. This is mutual. I daily deal with the Indians and I know this situation. I know this very well. And I know Pakistanis, they have a lot of hatred for the Indians. And there are a lot of Indians who have a lot of hatred for Pakistan as well. So I won't say politician. I think somehow the political class has got mature. They don't come up upfront with those statements. I can quote every sitting minister in the Indian cabinet right now who have given statement, and I can quote maybe the sitting ministers in Pakistani cabinet who have spoken about India, against India. So it's there. For example, the effigies of Bilawal Bhutto have been burnt in India recently when he gave a statement on Prime Minister Modi, as a butcher of Gujarat, so and so. And similarly, Modi's effigies have been burnt in Pakistan for so many reasons. So this is there. And it will take some time, maybe. Yeah. Yes.
Right. I think that was a very candid answer. Thank you. We'll not get more into that. We'll not get into it. Is there any hope in this next question is by Ram Narayan Vinayak. Is there any hope in Pakistan to go back to their roots? Pakistan created on breakaway from their Pakistan was created on a breakaway from their roots. Has Pakistan forgotten the fight for independence from the British India?
I think these questions are obviously different from the discourse, but what has been this, what right now where we are, it can't be, you just can't undo this. So yeah, so let's move forward.
The roots are different, but I agree that over the years we have acquired different dynamics. We've had our highs and lows, and let's hope that one day we move towards highs again. From Sunil Pant, one of the esteemed members of our group. Does the Kashmir issue remain an actual point of conflict between Pakistan and India today? Or is it an alibi for justifying military dominance?
Well, this is, I think, a very important question. Uh, the Kashmir is still the cornerstone of Pakistan's foreign policy. The political class, the generals, the bureaucracy, they speak on that. But obviously, the financial compulsions, the political instability, getting global irrelevance on so many forums because of our financial compulsions. I think they have just put it on hold. So there is no way that nobody's forgetting the Kashmir. What I have looked from meeting and interacting people, the military dominance. I think at the end of the day, I think the military wants to move on with India on Kashmir. I would suggest, and I have a very loaded opinion on that. I have been to certain places where General Bajwa was speaking on these issues, and General Bajwa was very open in saying that we need to move forward with India. Even his open statements back in the Islamabad security dialogue, they are very late. I heard General Bajwa talking on moving with India on economy and other things back in 2019. So this is not in 2021. So there was a one meeting where he was talking to the member of the Chambers of Commerce. Normally, this is not a job of the army chief to talk to the Chamber of Commerce, but here, in Pakistani dynamics, we have this thing. So because the military gives the stability in so many frameworks and people look towards military. And he was saying that, okay, we need to move with India when it comes to trade. If the numbers, if we don't have to give an analysis on the basis of analysis, okay, what happened in India, Pakistan, hatred, so fights, wars, and all that. We need to look, there is a term what we call as a gravity model of trade, that you go for the trade with the markets which are near you. So India is obviously a market that is near us. That we can, the wheat if we import from India is much cheaper as compared to if we import it from Russia or Ukraine or any other country from anywhere in the world. So I think the military is there. The military wants to move forward. They want to forget the history, the political class, and particularly, I think the Imran Khan needs to show the maturity on this. And I'm 500% sure the military wants to move on so many things, and they want to have a dialogue. And what General Bajwa was in his last visit to Washington says that when it comes to India, we will deal like big boys with India, and we can deal, obviously. But the political class, they have to maybe lose their political capital or the political equity, maybe for which who will bell the cord or who will agree to that. That's a question.
I was debating with myself if I can add on to that question, Kamal. But I'm tempted to ask you a question. You feel free to just not answer if you want. Let's not get involved in this if you don't want to. But this question sort of triggers me to ask you this. The last part of this question, alibi for justifying military dominance. Let me put it the other way, in another manner. Let us say India, Pakistan resolve our issues on the LOC and otherwise to a great extent, if not fully. I mean, it's okay if we resolve our issues, it will marginalize or it will decrease the importance of military, or at least it will have to decrease the numbers, the budgets, the resources of military on both sides, because a considerable part of Pakistan and Indian military goes in confronting each other. If it is going to reduce the resource allocations to militaries, in Pakistan, the military has grown a larger than life image. We've discussed that. Pakistan, and what we've not discussed, Pakistan military also is a very large economic establishment, to include a lot of Pakistani retired military officers and military veterans. So having said that, if we resolve our problems one way or the other over time, will that not marginalize the military's importance in its own polity? You see, in India, the Indian military, like Gautam Murthy was saying, Indian army is subservient to the political class. Whereas by your own admission, that is not the case there. So that is the dynamics I would like, in case
Well,
you
I
wish to
think,
comment.
I think, the challenge is, the thing is that you have found a new enemy, and that is China, and we have only one enemy, that is India. So your justification for every defense expenditure will be justified. For example, there was just a survey recently where said that,
Yes.
oh, America is a bigger threat to India as compared to Pakistan, okay, because it's facing internal challenges. But I think I don't find this the case. First, it's not going to happen what you are saying. Second, if the issues are resolved, maybe I think overall way the nature of the society, the nature of the conflict, and these the societal patterns are changing. I think we need to put the resources definitely on so many other things. And one more thing, it's not just having resolved issues with India. Pakistan believes that we have achieved a strategic stability with India, having nuclear weapons, having missile technology. If we need to, rather moving horizontally in power capability, if we go vertically in our power military capability, that is much more strong. And I think obviously the military is looking that having number doesn't mean much, but having sophistication in technology and all that, that is why that is important. And that's why Pakistan and China cooperation is there. Pakistan believe that, okay, with all that, whatever we want to have, we don't have sufficient funds, so and so. So the Americans, the British, the French, they're not going to roll over their defense equipment to us. But we need to look towards China for the military advancement or the military technology, or the weapons technology, or whatever things are required for that. So in my understanding, maybe there is some sort of a discussion. I'm not privy to that, what the military mindset is. But we have one enemy, so please let it remain the enemy. Otherwise, that is there. So generals in India may be happy that Jan Sahab, on a lighter note, since I am a lot on Indian media, so whenever there is an issue on LSE, Dr. Tara was also, I have been here together on a few platforms. Whenever there is an issue between India and China, the Indian channels, they don't know what to do. So they invite a Pakistani. Oh, look, Pakistanis, you have China as your friend, and what you are doing, look, your friend is doing. Since they know that nobody in China watching Indian media, because nobody understands English there, and the Indians can't speak Chinese. So what to do? Okay, find a Pakistani friend, have it on the TV. Oh, look, China is doing this. Oh, they are the two-front war. This is a 2.5 front war, and these new narratives are come. So I'm sure you move wherever you move on, you won't move on from Pakistan.
All right. I think that's a fairly good note to end it on. Thank you very much, Kamar, and thank you very much, Tara, for very, very interesting discussions. And you made very good points, Kamar, especially coming from the other side. It's good to hear your points. When I also mentioned about your balance of power deadlock that you spoke of, not and military dominance. So it's a good thing. Like today, in towards the end, you were speaking of uh, Pakistan believes. I mean, you say that you achieved strategic stability vis-a-vis India rather than only numbers and things like that. So it is good to hear the other point of view and understand the concepts as you see them. Uh, we understand that Pakistan, the military, and when I say military, it is purely the army. You also know it is only the army, which calls the shots. So the army has a status which like no other country. No other country has that kind of status, because in some countries where military is all in power, all powerful, then it does lead more to anarchy. And let's not name the countries, some of them in the neighborhood, but. Uh, Yes, it is different. We really hope that what you said about General Bajwa or the military wanting to move on and wanting better relations, and there one proof I can offer is that General Bajwa brokered ceasefire, which is still by and large holding on. Now it's been 2 years that we are holding on to that ceasefire. So we have our own good points, bright spots in our own dynamics as well. Let's hope that bright spots do multiply. And we may have more meetings in such fora which come up like SEOs for one. So thank you very much for your insights, and thank you for fielding all the questions very sportingly. And I would like to thank Tara for her insights, which are brilliant as usual. I read your article, today's article also, which was fairly relevant to our discussions. And thank you, Kasa, for giving us this forum to host this talk. And last but not the least, thank you, participants, for listening on, for staying on, and also for asking very relevant questions. Over to you, Janmurthy sir.
This was really a fascinating discussion and a discourse. Dr. Kamar Chima, we thank you on behalf of CASA for giving us a really deep insight into the dynamics of how Pakistan functions. And you actually did read the tea leaves, and Tara too did read the tea leaves, although Tara did not have to field any questions because all of them were directed towards Dr. Kamar Chima only. Let us hope that both the nations are able to shed their baggage, and if Pakistan really extends a hand of friendship, a genuine hand of friendship, there is no reason why India should not grasp it. Of course, India has been bitten a couple of times, but given the dynamics within Pakistan, and if Pakistan Army has taken the lead, there is really hope for the future. But before we go there, the most important aspect that you brought out is Pakistan's own internal dynamics and how Imran Khan should sort of rein in his hotheads and and the politicians in Pakistan should work together towards establishing a durable Pakistan, which is good for the people of Pakistan. And ultimately, it would be good for India also if the baggage of hatred and the past is shed. Thank you, Dr. Kamar Chima. Thank you, Dr. Tarakata. Thank you, Satish, for moderating this wonderful discussion. Thank you, General Dipinder, for silently steering it. Thank you, Bagnali in absentia. And thank you all the participants and members of CASA for having sat through this discussion on a Saturday evening. Thank you all very much. Goodbye, God bless, and Jai Hind.